So I don't think this is as much lawyer-driven as PR flack.
And look, I'm like you. I have very low opinion of her. I have never really known much about her until this litigation started, but it didn't take me long to reach my own conclusions. And I wasn't influenced by Baldoni. I'm influenced by her and how she's behaving in this case. It has nothing to do with him. And honestly, if there's anybody that I care less about than Blake Lively, it might be her husband, Ryan Reynolds.
Absolutely not. The nerve of this woman to think that I would ever turn that over or allow my team to turn it over. It just shows you the hubris that comes from being like this Hollywood star. Like, you know what? You're up against it now, sweetheart, because I will fight you. I will fight. I'll spend tons of money. It'll be my pleasure to spend tons of money fighting you and turning you into a loser.
Blake Lively really thought she could step into the ring with Megyn Kelly and not get flattened. According to Deadline, Blake's team swore up and down that at no point in this litigation has Miss Lively served a subpoena on Megyn Kelly. That's the official line. But then Megyn went live and, in my opinion, absolutely torched Blake with a 14-minute demolition job. So what's the truth? Well, it depends on whether you like word games and gaslighting. Blake didn't technically subpoena Megyn Kelly directly. Reportedly, what she did was subpoena Red Seat Ventures, the company that produced Kelly's show. And that subpoena specifically named Megyn and her program, demanding her internal emails, research packets, and communications. That's like saying you didn't key your neighbor's car, you just keyed the lease company's car they just happened to drive. In my opinion, it's the same thing, sweetheart. Megyn's reaction? Brutal. She mocked the whole idea that Justin Baldoni or Brian Friedman would need to pay her to dislike Blake. She said, in her opinion, Blake's own behavior was enough to sour anyone. Then she went further, calling Blake pathetic, untalented, narcissistic, a bully, and another entitled Hollywood snob.
Stop! Stop! He's already dead.
I've seen cage fights with gentler takedowns. But Megyn didn't stop at name-calling. She laid out exactly what Blake's team wanted. Private emails, source communications, drafts of show prep, the whole behind-the-scenes journalistic process. In other words, they wanted to peek behind the curtain of her reporting. That's sacred territory for journalists, and Megyn wasn't having it. She said she hired her own lawyer, spent the money, and happily told Blake's team to take a hike. Her words, "I will spend tons of money fighting you and turning you into a loser," which is what happened here. Now here's the question that I need the answer to. Why would Blake risk going after someone like Megyn Kelly, who thrives on public fights? If Blake's case is as strong as her team keeps claiming, why reach for journalists and influencers instead of just hammering Baldoni with evidence? In my opinion, this isn't about winning in court. This is about trying to control the narrative, and that's where it looks weak. Megyn also called out how Blake's team has gone after small influencers, dragging them into court and slapping them with motions to compel. She said that's bullying, plain and simple. Megyn can afford lawyers, but these young creators can't. And in my opinion, Blake knows that. What she doesn't seem to get is that moves like this don't win her sympathy. They make people dislike her even more. No payout, no smear campaign, no Baldoni instruction needed. She's doing the damage to her own reputation by what I feel is weaponizing her lawyers against anyone who doesn't bow down. That's not a good look for someone who's already being accused of retaliation. Imagine being a mega famous actress, a supposed feminist icon, and you're burning legal fees chasing social media accounts that barely get seen. That's not power, that's insecurity on paper. And the funniest part, one lawyer on the panel dragged Ryan Reynolds into it. He said that the only person he cares less about than Blake Lively is Ryan Reynolds. That's ice cold. Ryan has built an entire brand on being the sarcastic golden boy of Hollywood, and here's lawyers basically saying, yeah, don't care. That's not just shade, that's total dismissal. Meanwhile, Blake's team keeps acting like everything's fine. They told Deadline, this is just routine discovery, that Blake's focused on proving Baldoni retaliated against her, that they've already got emails, invoices, and texts to back her up. But notice what's missing. None of that shows Baldoni paying reporters to smear Blake. That's the core allegation, and after months of fishing, they still haven't landed a single piece of evidence. In my opinion, that's why they're flailing at journalists. If you can't find proof, you go after the people writing about you instead. Even Megyn's legal panel pointed out the absurdity. One of them said, this doesn't feel lawyer-driven, it feels PR-driven. And that tracks. Every move Blake makes looks less like a courtroom strategy and more like an image management meltdown. If her lawyers really thought they could win on the merits, they wouldn't be wasting time chasing media prep packets. That's not litigation, that's optics. Let's not forget, Blake's actually scored some legitimate wins. Baldoni's $400 million countersuit got tossed. The judge blocked parts of her deposition from being made public. As I speak, she is pushing for sanctions against Friedman. But instead of celebrating those wins, she's out here splitting hairs about whether she did or didn't subpoena Megyn Kelly. Why is she so focused on side quests instead of just taking down the final boss Baldoni? So let's zoom out. What does this really mean? In my opinion, Blake tried to muzzle a journalist and it backfired spectacularly. She wanted to look strong, but ended up looking petty. She wanted to silence critics, but instead gave Megyn Kelly one of her best segments in months. She wanted to protect her image, but now she's got headlines, painting her as a Hollywood diva, trying to intimidate the press. That's the slow unraveling of Blake's case. Even when she wins in court, she loses in public. Even when she insists she didn't subpoena someone, the receipts say otherwise. And even when she tries to act unbothered, people like Megyn are out here shredding her credibility on air. So here's my take. Nothing says guilty like trying to silence your critics, and nothing makes you look smaller than getting humiliated by the very people you tried to intimidate. Blake can keep splitting hairs and issuing spokesperson denials, but in my opinion, the damage is already done. She picked a fight with someone who can't be bullied, and she lost. So what do you think? Did Blake's team actually believe Megyn Kelly would roll over, or was this the PR equivalent of walking into traffic on purpose? Let me know in the comments. Hit like, hit subscribe, and let's continue watching this case fall apart in real time.